Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to actually change the value held in the input field called first, and we're going to change it to whatever we want. So we're going to go equals JavaScript is cool. The default value, of course, we set it to Stefan. So when we click our on click here, we fire off the check form function. This is check form. JavaScript will now change the value of the input field first. So, and we'll change it to this text here, of course. So let's try that out. So here's our form, default value is Stefan. So let's see what happens. JavaScript is cool. So we're moving right along here. We're learning how it's pretty easy actually to use JavaScript to check to see what's going on. And we can identify form elements, type they are. We can check to see what's inside of a particular form element. And we can actually change its value all dynamically using JavaScript. So let's try something very cool. Maybe we could, let's autofill a value as the browser loads up. So let's try something like this. We'll say input name browser, and we'll say type text. All right, so we got an input type browser. So that would be the web browser type. So let's do something about that. So we're going to go function. We're going to call it check underscore browser. So to figure out what browser the person is using who's visiting this particular page, we have to jump up and use the navigator object. So we go to our object hierarchy. We're going to go way up the stack, right to the top level, navigator object. And in there is a property called app name. And this will tell us what the name of the browser is. So I'm just going to alert this out just to check it out. So let's see what the page looks like. And it's Netscape. So one last thing. I called this function, check browser, that we just created here. I called it on the onload of the page. As soon as the page loads, it checks the browser and it alerted us what was going on here. Now what's interesting, let's actually load this up. Defaults to Stefan here, right? Our default value of this text box here. Now watch the down here, Stefan. Yeah, first name Stefan. Now watch this. Now if I click the check form, never did. There we go. JavaScript is cool. Now if I reload the page, it doesn't change back for some reason. That's kind of a bug if you ask me, because I set the default value for this input to Stefan. So this is very annoying. So what we're going to do, a little bonus here. On the onload, cut and paste this. I'm going to say, no. Listen, when the page loads, we're going to run check browser. And one of the things I want to make sure that this form field with the name of first, this one right here, has a value of Stefan, no matter what. So this is saved. Let's check her out. And we reload. See, it changed back to Stefan for us this time. Kind of cool, right? So I'm hoping you're starting to see how you have a lot of control over what's going on in a page with JavaScript. So let's get rid of this browser here. So what I want to do now is I want to take this value of browser and I want it to apply to this particular element here. So we're going to just do that. I'll just cut and paste here because cut and paste is our friend. So I'm going to go document.sendmail, not first, but I'm going to say browser.value. See, browser. Let me just scroll this a little bit here so you can see. Input name browser. So I'm going document.sendmail. This is the name of our form, sendmail. And this is the browser field, input box, browser. And I want to say make its value our browser. So like that. Remember, because this is a variable, which we declared here, we do not put this in quotes. If it was just text, we have to put it in quotes like we've done here. So I'm just going to do that. It worked before, but, you know, JavaScript is being forgiving. Just end it like this. If you skip a line, it's no problem, but just to be safe, always end your statements with semicolons, as I've done here. So let's see how this looks on the page. Refresh. And, yeah, right. 0. Oh, it already did it for us. Eh? Our name, Netscape. Check form. JavaScript is cool. So we're filling in values. We're automatically grabbing information about the person's browser. We're putting this information into the form dynamically by calling functions. This is pretty cool. We're doing some decent stuff here with JavaScript. What I want to do now is I want to show you some basic validation techniques, how to check to see what the value of a form element is, and then we can do something about it. For instance, we can stop the user from being able to submit the form unless they fill in a value properly. So let's try that out. First thing I'm going to do, I'll do a little bit of house cleaning. I'm going to put our check browser function at the top here, since we'll keep it here because we need it, but we'll get it out of the way. So let's look at our function check form. We're calling check form when somebody clicks on this particular button here. But if you want to check to see if they filled in the form properly, there's a way to do that right on the form tags itself. Fortunately, JavaScript makes this easy for us because the form object itself has, remember talking about this form object here, it has a function built in, not a function, excuse me, an event handler built in called onSubmit. OnSubmit basically is an event handler that fires off when the form is submitted by clicking the submit button. So what we're going to do, we're going to say return, and what's it called? It's called check underscore form. So what does this mean? We're basically saying to the web browser, we're saying that when this form is submitted, we want you to call the check form function, and we want you, now here's the key, it says return check form. Essentially, what this allows us to do, it allows us to send a message to the web browser through our function. Remember when I told you that functions can return information back to whatever is calling the function, if you recall in earlier videos? If you're not sure, well, we'll get into it now, so it should come clear to you. So this is very important, this keyword here, because this will allow us to control whether or not this form actually gets submitted or not. Let's just jump into this. So I'm going to show you how this works. So we're going to need to use a conditional statement. We're going to use an if, and we're going to use return. So watch this. So let me just write it out, and hopefully it will become more clear to you guys as we write it out. So let's go if text box dot value. Oops, let me put this into view here so you can see everything. My apologies. So, okay, I've commented this out, so the value may not be Stefan when the page reloads, but we're going to do this, so just bear with me. So we're going to go alert, and we're going to say textbox.value. See what happens now. Okay, so the form was submitted, right? Because the process form.php was the target. And the form was submitted because the value was Stefan. So let's change it to, or we can just even remove 2 letters here. Refresh. See, it doesn't refresh, right? And as you can see, it keeps submitting the form, right? We know we submitted a form because you see it goes to process form, process-form.php, which is our target attribute here, right? Process-form. So let's now uncomment this, and we're going to change it to Neok. Okay, I like Neok better. So what's going to happen, or at least it should happen, is when the browser loads, it's going to change the value of this input box called, named first, to Neok. And then this function will be called when we hit submit, right? Because we're saying on submit, return check form. And check form will run, and we'll see that indeed that the value of text box is not equal to Stefan. So the alert will fire off, and the form will not be sent out because we say return false. So the on submit, when we say return, it has to return true. It has to, we would say true, true or false. If it said true, if I put return true, this would be sent off. But if it's returned false, the browser will stop submitting the form. So anyway, let's take a look and see how that looks. Refresh. Submit. That's no good. Why didn't that work? Oh. Old form. I have to load the new page. My apologies. There we go. Now that's the proper page. Forms-4, forms-4. Up here you can see it. So let's see what happens. Well, it still went to the next page. So let's see what we did wrong. Notice this. I said it's not equal to Stefan. Now, because I didn't put in quotes, it assumes I'm looking for a variable. Since we don't have that variable, it screws everything up. So maybe that will work if I put it in quotes. So let's see what happens. There we go. Undefined. Form doesn't get fired off, right? Now, reason we got undefined is because I made a mistake. Well, let me just roll that again. Click undefined, right? And the reason we got undefined in the alert because I said text box that value, but it doesn't know what I told text box was this value here. So we have to change that. We have to go var text box is actually equal to, I was going to do it a complex way. We don't have to. We just need the value. And this is holding the value of text box. So we just go alert text box because text box is actually equal to the value. I hope that makes sense. So let's try that again. Here we go. Bango. So that's it. Let me explain that last little bit. I wanted to alert the value held in the input box first, which we see down here. Since this variable here, text box, it's actually the value. I'm saying document.sendMail.value, it's equal to this. I say that's equal to text box. So that's why we're getting the value of JavaScript is cool, and because that's what's in here, right? That's why alerting this is kind of redundant. So we don't really need to alert that. So let's save that, try again. So we default back to Neok again because up here I said when the page loads, we're gonna unload. We're gonna fire the check browser function, and check browser, first thing it does is actually changes the value of the input box named first to Neok. So if we go back here, refresh, it becomes Neok. We filled in Netscape as before. So let's run let's say we want to submit. JavaScript is cool, that fires off, right? Because we do that right here on check form. We change the value of the checkbox to JavaScript is cool. You know what? I could go on. We're already up to, way over 10 minutes here. So I'm going to stop this video, and in the next video, we're going to continue on from here, exploring JavaScript. My apologies for running on. Nerds can do that. You can just keep going and going and going. I hope as we're running through examples, you're starting to get a better understanding of JavaScript and how it can be used to interact with forms.